So this is my finished pencil portrait of B.J. Brown. I used a traditional graphite pencil kit ranging all the way from 6B to 9H, I believe it was. That's a decent sketch. One of the nice things about this is that at the end of this project I will also have, either for sale or as a gift to my client, a pretty decent pencil portrait to give to the client, so that's always nice. Okay, now let me tell you what I'm going to do with this next. Back to Photoshop on the computer. Let me show you what I've done with my pencil portrait here. Here it is. I put it on my scanner, scanned it into Photoshop, and it's right there. And then I reduced it to just the right size so that when I cut and paste, copy, diminish that, and put it into my sketch, it's exactly the right size. What I haven't told you perhaps is that in Photoshop I have sized my sketch here so that it's exactly 5 feet by 7 feet, or 60 inches by 84 inches. So inch to inch, this is going to correspond to my canvas, which is downstairs in my studio. So that tells me that in the final painting, this is exactly the right size. This is the size that my portrait is going to be. So here is all of the preparation that I've done as I get ready to do the painting on a 5 by 7 foot canvas. Here's my portrait of B.J. Brown. This is probably the most important reference that I have. It's the sketch that I did that has already been approved by my client. And I've put on here a grid. Can you see that? I believe you can. There. A blue and red grid. That's just so I don't get confused. The red lines are going to be at every 1 foot mark. The blue lines are going to be at the 6-inch marks in between. And finally, I have the photograph that I took that has been modified in Photoshop. I added BG and a friend here that were not there in the original scene. So that gives me two things to look at when I come to drawing out this scene. So the very next thing I need to do is get a red and blue 6-inch grid on this large canvas. I should also mention the pencils that I'm using to do these lines. Can you see those? Yeah. Those are both watercolor pencils, which means they're water soluble, which means while I'm doing the painting, if there's any point at which I want to erase these lines, I just take a brush full of water to it and scrub them out and they're gone. Okay, so that's what I'm making my lines with. Let me take a second to demonstrate why I use a watercolor pencil to do my grids, because they're so easy to erase. As you can see, I've got a brush here with water in it and a damp rag, and with just a little bit of scrubbing I can pretty much get rid of those lines very easily, much more easily than if I were trying to erase graphite with an eraser. Let me take a minute to show you the trick I'm going to use to transfer the copy of my pencil portrait of BG to the canvas. You may have seen me do this before. It's an old trick, nothing new or unique about it, but I'm basically going to turn this paper into a piece of homemade carbon paper. I have a piece of charcoal in my hand, and I'm simply rubbing it on the back of the page, smoothing it out, blending it in. And then I'm going to take a red ballpoint pen downstairs back at my in my drawing. Let me do a quick test just to make sure it's adequate coverage. I use red so that I can tell a ballpoint pen works very well for doing this kind of thing, and red lets me know where I've been. That'll work great. Okay, back to the canvas now. So I have my sketch now turned into a piece of carbon paper. I know the exact position of BG's head because of the grid. It's on my master drawing, and the grid that's on my canvas goes right about there. So all I have to do now is very carefully trace this. I don't want to lose any of those, 32nd of an inch discrepancies or distinctions that I made. So I'm going to be very careful. Let's see if that's coming off right. Yeah, very good, very good. So in a sense, this part of the process is sort of like what I called earlier cheating, quote-unquote cheating. That is using mechanical, technical, artificial means to get the image. The difference, or at least one difference, is I already drew BG's face the old-fashioned way, if you will, by struggling and copying, and then of course I used the computer in Photoshop to double-check myself. But in the process of that, I have become quite familiar with BG's face. So I feel like I know it fairly well, and that knowledge will certainly help me when it comes to doing the final painting on this drawing. There it is. So now I have at least a good, accurate outline of BG's face. It will still take quite a bit of careful painting to make that look exactly like him, but I'm off to a good start.